Hello and welcome to Cooper's Commercial Match Angling again. We've come to Carr's Lakes, Halcyon Peg 5. What I've come here to do is show you today a method that works well in the winter periods. So the weather's changed dramatically, the nights are drawing in, the light conditions are drawing in, the weather's dropped in temperature, we've got northeasterly winds, we've had a lot of rain. So basically the fish now are starting to be really inactive. So we've come to try and catch some carp that'll be moving into the winter homes, balling up. We've come to do a tactic dobbing with the waggler. Basically what that involves is casting a bait around, trying to find some fish, changing depths, trying to find the levels of water that they're sitting in. No feed whatsoever, just with a single bait fluttering through the water, hopefully to catch a carp's eye, make them snap at it, and obviously bury the float, and hopefully we'll catch some fish. Right guys, before I start fishing, I'm going to show you the rig today. So basically we're using a 11-foot rod. We're using a 3000 reel, which is nicely balanced with a 11-foot rod. We've got a reel line of 4 pound. Basically, we're not using heavy waggler like pellet waggler lines now. We're using lighter lines for casting, a bit more stealth basically because the water's a lot clearer. So hopefully, we don't want the fish to see these horrible, 8 pound lines that we've been using, 6 pound lines we've been using over the summer periods. We're using a loaded waggler, basically the loaded waggler and some float stops, which allows us to adjust the depth. We're using a micro swivel attachment, which basically has a quick change on it, so we can change the hook length. And what you will notice is we're using a really long hook length, so we're using a 15-inch hook length, which is basically the shallowest I'll be fishing, but I'm going to start at 3 foot. So what I do before I start the session is I start basically at where I believe the fish are going to be sat. I know the peg that I'm fishing today is around about 5 foot deep, so I'm looking to start 2.5 to 3 foot place basically, which is half depth. We're using 0.15 hook length, a size 16 hook. We're going to be hooking the corn, and then we're using, like I say, a loaded float with some float stops so we can quickly adjust the depth. But when I start my session, what I do is I use the hook up on the rod, and then I make a mental note of the depth I've started at by the eyes on the rod. So if you can see there, I'm holding the waggler in straight in line with the line, and the tip of the waggler is on this eye, which is just past the join of my 2-piece rod. That is about 2.5 to 3 foot. If I need to make any adjustments, I don't get any signs or any bites, I shallow up and I start to catch fish at 2 foot, 18 inches, or I go deeper and I start to catch fish at 4 foot or 5 foot. Basically, I'll make a mental note of that, so that I know when I'm starting to get signs what depth I'm fishing, and that's really important basically to know where the fish are sat. But that might change through the day. If the sun comes up, the fish will probably come up for a warm. If the wind gets chilled over the top of the water, the fish will probably drop down to the warmer layers. So that's what this method's all about, finding the fish and finding where they're sat. Right guys, now I'm going to show you the peg. Basically in the winter in this peg, the fish sit between the small island, which I call the basket, and the big island in the distance, which is the furthest away point they can get from the anglers, so they feel safe. So the ball up between the little basket and the big island. So what I want to do is, the most important thing is, I don't want to be disturbing them fish, so I set my waggler up, I set it to the depth that I think I'm going to fish at, and then I make a cast with bait, so that I don't want to be having 10 casts and disturbing them fish before I even put a bait at them. So I haven't chucked the waggler at all past that basket until I'm actually fishing. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast to the left, see if I get any indications. So I'll probably have half a dozen casts to the left, and then I'll have half a dozen casts to the right to try and find the fish. All the time I'll be playing with the depth as well to see if I can find what level in the water they're sat at. And then hopefully when we catch a fish to the left or to the right, we'll have a couple of casts there, catch 1 or 2 fish, and then we'll switch and we'll go to the left or the right, opposite to what we were fishing previously. Basically, I don't want to end up casting to one spot, taking all the fish from one spot and pushing them out of my peg. So what I'm trying to do is bounce them from the left to the right, herding the fish to the centre of my peg so that I can catch as many of them as possible before they probably decide to disappear altogether out of my peg. I've decided I'm going to cast to the left of my peg, where you can see the moor hen in the background, basically because I've got some anglers to the left who've been casting to this side. I actually expect the fish to be sat to the right, but I don't want to immediately go to the right and push them right. So I'm going to start left, work my way to the right, where I expect the fish to be sat on the right hand side of the basket. But hopefully we might catch one on the left. Sink the line. So what's basically happening is I'm checking the line, straightening all of the line out so that the corn lands past my float, waiting for the corn to sink slowly, see if we get a bite, give it sort of a minute or two, see if there's any fish sat there, and then I'm just going to twitch my float, which basically is fluttering the corn up and then letting it slowly sink again, just to try and catch a fish's eye. We'll give that a chance to fall to full depth again. And then we'll give it another twitch. Generally you either get the first indication or the first bite as the bait falls through the water and just settles, or you twitch your float just after the twitch, 5 or 10 seconds, then you get a sign. We're not really hanging the bait today, although we will try that later if we can't catch twitching. So nothing again, so another little twitch. You'll notice as well the first cast was sort of made halfway between the basket and the island, so I don't want to go a full chuck right to the island at the moment. I want to sort of start as short as possible, see if I can catch some fish before I have to push further out to find them. Another little twitch and then we're basically ready to cast again. So nothing on that cast. We'll just check our corn, make sure it's on the hook, not going to fall off, and then we'll make our second cast again to the left of my peg. A bit further this time. Again, let that corn fall to its full depth, which is our 2.5 to 3 foot. Give it a minute or two. It's important as well to try and not let the float drift. Obviously it doesn't look natural if it's a piece of corn's just towing along. We actually want it falling straight down, settling, staying still, and then if not we just basically twitch our float again. As you can see, it is drifting ever so slightly from left to right, so we need to sink that line, make sure we try and keep that float as still as possible. Okay, so we've had 3 or 4 casts to the left of the peg where we started, no signs, probably due to the fact that we've got anglers on the left, casting method feeders in and probably pushing the fish to the right. So now we're just going to have a cast to the right, as far left as we can, and then we'll work our way out to the right hand side. Sink that line so we don't get that drift. Chance for that corn to settle. And then we'll give it a little twitch. As you can see, the float is slowly drifting left to right, which is not ideal, but the best we can do is sink the line really. There's a bit of skim going left to right. Another little twitch. Again, no signs yet, so we'll wind in and have another cast. Still sticking at this 3 foot depth. Give this sort of half an hour, good cast around the peg. Try and get that line straight and sunk as quickly as possible. Basically we're creating minimum disturbance out there, just a nice little plop of the waggler, corn to follow, flutter down, hopefully just to catch a fish's eye. Again, no indications, so a little twitch. See some bubbles in the background behind my float, a bit further than where I'm casting. That's signs of fish basically blowing and moving around. So we'll have another cast. It's all about being active, searching your peg, this method. Try and find some fish. We'll cast a lot further to where we're seeing signs of them bubbles. And there we go, there's a bite. Fortunately missed it. Could have been a liner as well, just fish swimming at the line. Just going to check that corn, just change it. Basically burying the hook in the corn but leaving the point quite exposed. So again we'll have another cast back to that area. Sink that line. Another little twitch. This is just like really dobbing on what you would do on the pole, but obviously at distance, so you can search your peg more. So if we start getting liners, we'll just shallow up. If we're getting no indications around the peg, we'll just drop deeper and then search the peg again. Another little twitch. You can see now the line's fully sunk, so the float's sitting really still, so it's not getting dragged with the drift anymore. Simply because our line's below the surface, not getting dragged along by the skim on the water. A little twitch. A few bubbles just come up there to the right of my float. Bubbles don't necessarily mean that there's fish grubbing around on the bottom as well. It can be fish at half depth, just basically taking in a gulp of air, and you get little blows come up. So we're going to repeat that process again. As I say, it's all about keeping busy. So as you can see, I'm fishing with a size 16 hook, quite a wide gaped hook for the corn. And then I'm picking a largish piece of corn. You can see there, a nice large kernel of corn. So then I'm hooking it straight through the top of the corn, deep as I possibly can into the corn, and then coming out the side. So you can see there, if I lay that on my hand, the hook point showing. So obviously when the carp grabs or sucks that in, basically they get the hook as well. Fresh bit of corn on, well buried, leave the hook point showing. All the time I'm looking around my peg as well, just for signs of fish. So like them little blows, any little fish topping, any little bow waves. Sometimes the fish will sit really shallow. Little twitch. Basically by twitching we're just again, lifting that corn up in the water, making it visual to the fish really. You can change that up, you can little twitches, you can give the reel a good whine, just trying to get a fish to snap at the bait more than actually feed them. Very inquisitive a carp, so any little noise or any movement, it catches their eye line. Sometimes they'll just have a snap at it. So again, nothing on that cast. Just check that corn and then we'll chuck it back out again. You can see there immediately that the float's landed. It's buried again. So there's definitely some fish in that area. You could see some bubbles immediately from fish as soon as that waggler landed. So what we're going to do with this next cast is, bubbles are just to the right of our float, but not as far as where we've been casting. So I'm going to try and land the float basically as close to them bubbles as I can on the next cast. It's probably bang on the mark. Try and keep that line tight at all times as well, so you can pick up straight away immediately to get a bite. There's quite a lot of signs of fish moving to this right hand side now. I think probably because we've had a few casts. That's on. Right, so we've hooked our first fish. It's took a while to find where they are, but they're sat basically as far right as they possibly can be in the peg. A nice little common, about 2.5 pound. So we've chucked basically as far right as we dared, and we've had 2 indications and then hooked a fish finally. And he's wanted that. It's quite far down. Let's get the discarder on it. It's nice that it's in the mouth properly, which shows that our depth that we started at of 3 foot is about right, because we went down to 4 foot, never had any indications whatsoever. Gone up to back up to 3 foot deep, and then we've caught this little beauty. Show that on the camera. Nice 2 or 3 pound common. Right, so we've caught a fish as far right of our peg as we dare cast. So we're just going to chuck back there now. I think we might have found a pocket of fish, so we might catch a couple now. It took a while really to find the fish. We've been casting left and right, but I've had to go fully right. And I think the reason being is there's a couple of pleasure anglers to our left, and they've been casting in big method feeders. So before I've arrived, I think what's happened is the fish have pushed way out of the peg to the right extremity of the peg. There's a fish just top there. I don't know whether the camera picked that up, but you can see basically the fish have backed right away to the right hand side. Not doing us any favours, but we'll keep plugging away. Hopefully we can nick a couple off the edge if they start to come back towards us. There we are, we're in again. So, the trouble with this peg as well is that you've got this big basket in front of you to deal with, but that's why I think the fish like to sit here, because it's a bit of security for them. So when you hook one, you've got to make sure it doesn't go behind the basket. See how crucial the fish location is. We've probably fished for a good hour with 2 or 3 indications, next to nothing. Chucked to the far right of our peg and caught 2 within 3 chucks. So we were fishing correctly, just we weren't in the right area where the fish were. So another nice common, a little bit smaller, about 2 pound this one. Again hooked perfectly, just in the side of the top lip. just hold that one up to the camera as well. So another lovely little common. Excellent, the fish are absolutely freezing, blocks of ice, but lovely little fish. So basically what's happening when we're casting in is we're checking the float. The corn's going past our waggler, and then can you see that corn slowly sinking through the water in that clear water? And that's what the fish are seeing. Once that corn settles at the correct depth, which hopefully is just in front of the fish's eyes, they grab the corn, float dips, and obviously hit the bite. So I'll just show you that again. So there's the corn and the waggler, and you can see that corn slowly fluttering down. So we've just hooked our third fish, again same spot, right hand side. So we've actually hooked a nice chub on corn, a lovely chub. Oh, nice fish. Cracking day, winter fishing, dobbing corn on the waggler. So thanks for watching Cooper's Commercial Match Angling. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel. So don't forget, scoop 'em in your net.